Hello, pirate crew for the One Piece TCG. Today we got you a nice constructed deck profile of the one and only future Pirate King Straw Hat Luffy. As of right now, because of the limited cards, such as the only one starter deck for red for each color rather, and because of the limited tournament promos, obviously this deck isn't at 100% capacity until Romance Dawn drops, but we already know that some locals are either having just fun tourneys or just some cash pots that we would like to keep you up to date in our opinion, what we think is the best deck. And for Luffy, me and team player Mike think we got it down pretty well. Before we go into the actual deck profile, let's actually go into the leader itself, obviously. Monkey D. Luffy, 5,000 power, 5 life, red, obviously. Activate main once per turn. Give the leader or one of your characters one rested Dawn card. Pretty simple. I really like it. It's like a form of energy manipulation. Both boost your character or leader's attack power, as well as helps you reach those Dawn times requirements. I like it a lot. It's probably my favorite leader, even though I don't think it's the most busted. So first up, you got your one-drop standard blockers. It's Tony Chopper. There's literally nothing to talk about. He's literally just a blocker. Like, yeah, we have other cards we can go more in depth with. For example, the 4 of Nami, the one-drop starter deck exclusive, which is an activate main once per turn. Give one rested Dawn card to your leader or one of your characters. It is essentially your Luffy as a character card. It has 1,000 counter, but in reality, you're not going to use this card as countering. It's the amount of value, especially with later cards you'll see. This card gives insane value, and it's probably one of the most important cards in the actual deck we have. From almost never counter to you are going to counter exclusively. We have our 2-drop Nefertari VV, 4,000 power, 1,000 counter power. As you'll see, a theme with this deck is trying to counter in this deck is very hard, and I might want to say hard in general with red, because I realize a lot of red cards in testing and just looking at what we have right now just straight up doesn't have counter power. So once again, she's just there mainly for that counter power. Please do not use her. And here is our 2-drop Usopp. We have 3 of 2,000 power, 1,000 counter, Dawn times 2. When attacking, your opponent cannot activate a blocker character that has 5,000 or more power during this battle. Trigger play this card. Now, I want to say 8 out of 10 times this card is 100% just uses counter power. But there are those matchups. I know every deck has their own 5,000 or more power. For example, Kato has the Queen, but this card especially is mainly for your blue matchups when they put down that Croc, and for that green matchup when they put down that Kid. I actually did win a game straight up because of the 2-drop Usopp. Please do not sleep on it. I know on blue there's that 5-drop Crocodile, so it gets punished easily, but just sequence it right, attack with this card first, and you got it. Now we have our 2-drop Brook, 3,000 counter power. On play, doesn't matter, not really, because we're here for the 2,000 counter power. Also, I said 3,000 counter power. I meant 3,000 power, counter 2,000 power. But really, it's on play is set up 2 rested Dawn cards to your leader or one of your characters. It's great, but in reality, we talked about it with the VV. This is a deck that struggles, and I mean struggles with counter power. So your 2K counters has to be a 4 of, and it's 9.9 times out of 10 always going to be used as counter. I don't see any situation you're actually using the Brooks than playing the Brooks. Next up is probably the most important 2-drop in the deck, even more than the Brook, I would say, even though that's kind of debatable. 2-drop Sanji for 4K power, no counter power. That's a theme in this deck. Dawn times 2, this character gains Rush. Once again, red doesn't really draw. Red doesn't really have an end game other than just killing your opponent as fast as possible, at least so far. So once again, the reason why the Luffy and the Nami, if you have them already established on board, you play the Sanji, have both of them on board, your rush is essentially free because the 2 you already played for the Sanji is already under him. Even if you only have, well, obviously you have just a Luffy, it's just an extra Dawn, so it's essentially a 3-drop, like 6k. He's great, he's a must-have 4-of, you kind of want to see him almost every turn, that's why he has to be a 4-of. Next up is your 3-drop. We have 4-of 5,000 power, Nico Robin, 1,000 counter power. What does she say other than boobas? Well, that's all she says because there's no card tax. Once again, like the Usopp, like the VV, mainly there for counter power. There's going to be those situations where you want to maybe use her. And I lost my pre-release because I played her and didn't use her as a counter power. So yes. Remember, kids, sometimes you just want to keep your counter power. Because once again, we have no counter power. With this 3-drop, Roanoa Zoro for 5,000 power. Dawn ×1, this character gains plus 1,000 power. And on an interesting note, it says this character gains plus 1,000 power, but not on your turn. So that means even on your enemy's turn, even if you wanted to play this just for, I don't know, extra protection, even though I don't think there's any cards right now that, even with the extra 1,000, like event cards rather, because yeah, Gum Gum Rocket will still kill it, or Jet Pistol rather. It will still keep the 1,000 power if you swing and it's in rest mode, so honestly, this is great, but not until Romance Dawn, because this will easily be replaced by the other Rush Zoro. Next up is probably the first vanilla you're actually going to play. Your 4-drop, 6,000 power Frankie. Every card has its 6k power. In such a limited release of just having these very few cards we have, these 4-drop 6,000 power cards are proving immensely useful. The value it just has, just trying to go over 6,000, you already have to invest unless you already have your own 4-drop 6,000 power to swing into it. So these cards are great. It's a 4-of. Once again, in this deck, you probably would prefer your rushers though, maybe even your Zoro. So it's mainly just going to be counter power, but it's the best option to play. Now, probably one of the best attackers in the game, probably my favorite card in the game, especially for red. I mean, I think it's almost the entire reason why you pick red just for this one card alone. For a full playset, rather, you're going to get 2 starter decks. 5-drop, 6,000 power, Monkey D. Luffy. Already innate rush, which is fantastic. And then Dawn ×2, which is easy if you already have your Luffy. Well, obviously, you're not dead. And if you have your Nami established, you get around blockers. Against blue, this card is a must. This card will literally stop the blue engine. It literally stops Kid 2. This right now, and really when, I mean, there are counters in this game, but blocks are your indefinite ways to stop an attack from going to your leader. That card is a must-have. Next up is only a 2-of 6-drop 7,000 power Monkey D. Luffy. With Dawn ×2, this character gains rush. The reason this is a 2-of is because, one, you rather play the 5-drop, right? But in testing, especially with Romance Dawn Night Out, you really do want to attack as soon as possible. Really as soon as possible. You don't want to have summoning sickness in any of your cards. That's why we actually added these 2. Because at first I was like, do I really want these 2? Maybe I'll add 2 other cards for counter power, for a more defensive option. But red really doesn't draw. You really want to apply as much pressure as fast as possible. So we added these 2 extra rush cards because red really needs its rush. Like, also, like, especially you look at blue, blue can bounce, green can rest, your rush cards are your lifeline, so I think 2-of is good. And as a nice little tip, if you're especially fighting blue, I prefer, if I had an option between this and this in hand, I prefer playing this first until they start dropping out their blockers, only because this at least gets around your blockers, so I'd rather lose this first. And for 1 extra Dawn, I get 7,000 power, so if they don't have their blockers on field, I'm for sure getting a hit in, or they're dropping half of their hand, and then, yes. Next up, that was our final battle card or character card. So we're going straight into the event cards. And true believers, welcome to the one drop Diablo Jambe. I was the only one who put respect into this card. Fuck all of my team members. I say that with love. I love all of you. But what does it do? Activate main. Select one of your Straw Hat Crew type leader or character cards. Your opponent cannot activate blocker if that leader or character attacks during this turn. Trigger, KO one of your opponent's blockers characters with a cost of 3 or less. Just a trigger alone, you can get around a blocker. You can start destroying a blocker wall, especially in blue. Once again, this card has made me win some games. Literally just, I used to have this a 4 of, and honestly there was a game where I just repeatedly used this every single turn because I had it back to back to back to back, and it got me some guaranteed hits, and especially just stacking it with your leader. But I think as a 2 of, it's perfect. If there's ever a sideboard and ever introduced to this game, I think this is probably going to be a card that would probably stay in your sideboard for almost always. I don't see the blocker format ever dying unless Bandai ever decides, hey, no more of these. For one Dawn, you can counter plus 2,000, 3,000 power. It's just going to be straight up negate the attack. As of right now, I don't see that happening. So since we're in a since blockers are the only indefinite way to stop an attack, these Diablo Jambes come in clutch. 2 is a perfect amount, at least for me. 3, you might be able to fit. 4, you see its benefits, but I think 2 is perfect to fit for everything because remember, you need counter power. 1. Next up, we got a 1-drop guard point 3 of. What does it do? Counter, your leader or one of your characters gain plus 3,000 power during this battle. Then trigger, your leader or one of your characters gain plus 1,000 power during this turn. The reason it's a 3 of, because this is our only negate really, or like counter rather. The reason it's not a 4 of, once again, we try to establish, you want more offensive options than you want defensive. That's why especially Diablo Jambe is here. It is like your best offensive event card in the game right now, or for red rather. And yeah, you also mainly want to eat as many hits as possible, because in reality, red does not draw, and you mainly are going to fish from your life if you want hand advantage. Unfortunately, that's how red is until more cards come in, which we've seen red get a hand. Next up is our 2 of 2 drop. 1000 Sunny. Activate main. You may rest this stage card. 1 Straw Hat card, leader or character card on your field gains plus 1,000 power during this turn. You get it early, you get insane value. It's literally almost a free Dawn every turn. Enough said. The only reason why it's a 2-drop or 2 of is because instead of the Kaido Onigashima stage card, there's no reason, especially for only 1,000 power, to ever rest, activate, rest, you know? You only ever want to play one of these and that's it. Once again, there's no value, and even though I told you it has immense value, it will give you free, essentially 1 Dawn every turn. This is rather like a nice spice, a nice, oh, if I see it, I'm happy. Because you don't want to run 3 or 4, because if you see 2 or more of these in your hand, you're going to feel bad, especially, once again, red doesn't draw. You won't feel good if you see multiple of these in your hand. So that's why it's a 2 of, and honestly, if you want it as a pure tech / spice option, you could make it a 1 of. If you want more defense, guard point. If you want more offense, another Diablo Jambe, or even Monkey D. Luffy, or hell, just add another Vivi or another Usopp to get a more counter power. Last up for our last card is a 4 of 4-drop Gum Gum Jet Pistol. Activate main, KO one of your opponent characters with 6,000 power or less. Trigger, just activate this card's main. This is the second reason. This card and this card is the second reason you're getting the starter deck. Until we see more good event rec cards, this is probably the best red event card in the entire game, and only has more ridiculous support with Romance Dawn. You can straight up destroy that 8-drop kid from Romance Dawn with one of these cards and a Otama that minuses anything by 2,000 power for 5 energy. And that's green, for right now, that's green's biggest defensive option once that card comes out. 100%, this card's amazing. It will get around your big walls, and even if you have multiple Otamas, you can get rid of Kaidos easily for like 6 energy. I don't see this card dying anytime soon. But yeah, that's the entire deck list. That's all 50 cards. There should be a picture right now on screen to show like all 50 cards more in a neater format so y'all can see it, enjoy it. There should be ratios to the side too, so you don't really need to look at the picture. But that's our deck list. Right now it's very limited just because, you know, it is what it is. There's no other cards. But I hope you enjoy. If you like the video, leave us a like, comment down below what you thought. Even if you thought it was shit, like holy shit, why would you run 4 Sanjis? That's the worst mistake of your life. Just run only like vanilla cards. Where's the Cuckoo, right? Where's the Karu? So yeah, tell us how you feel. Tell us if you like it. If you're running in locals, tell us if you won or lost with it. And with that, have a great day, great night, and whatever you're doing, bye-bye.